Hey everybody, and welcome to Backseat Sports. I'm Josh, and that is Caleb, and today we are back to talk about another rough Husker weekend. This time, it was at the hands of the Michigan Wolverines, and it was a bloodbath, to say the least. It was a rough one, and right now, Nebraska fans are looking for hope for the future, looking for something to grasp onto and be excited about. So, hopefully, we can give you something today to make that just a little bit better. What do you got to say, Caleb?
Scott Frost said it's had to get worse before it's got better, and it's definitely gotten worse.
He was definitely telling the truth about that one, for sure.
Yeah, he said that Michigan was rock bottom this week.
But he was excited because it was rock bottom. That's what he was saying. That's what we got to look forward to, baby. This is the bottom. Woo! 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 Got to be excited about that one.
I am scared that it's not the bottom. Well, I mean, I think this year is the bottom, but But I think he was talking about that game, and I think it can get worse, sadly. And it just might with this week at Purdue. All right, so let's talk about the Michigan game.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the bottom. The bottom looks like -5 rushing yards in the first half. I guess the biggest thing that I took away from the game is it still looks like there's only a few people on the field that are really trying to win the football game.
That's probably what we should address first, is what Michigan players said, you know.
After the game, multiple Michigan players said, in their eyes, it looked like they just wanted to give up after that first drive. And, some people are saying, they're just saying that, they're rubbing that in. I don't think that's true. I don't really see teams say that the
last 2 years when Ohio State just beat us down, just destroyed us, they didn't say that we wanted to give up afterwards. They weren't saying that they saw us wanting to quit. That wasn't what they were saying. So this is definitely something that we haven't heard before, and I don't think players just say that just for fun after you smash a team. I don't necessarily think Michigan thought they were going to beat us by this much. I don't think they thought it was going to be that easy to beat us. And at the end of the game, Mo Berry said, man, we just aren't hustling. He just said, we're not hustling. That's all he had to say. I mean, in little ways, he was kind of echoing what Michigan players were saying, is that we weren't putting forth our full effort in that game. We weren't doing everything it took to win a game. And Frost has been preaching that the last few weeks, that there are guys on this team that aren't bought in. In Frost's interview, he was asked, who are some guys that you would say are bought in and are ready to play, are guys that love football and are going to go out there and battle, is what they were saying. And the three guys that he brought up were kind of the three guys that we talked about in the past, which is Stanley Morgan, Luke Gifford, and Mo Berry. And I would throw Tanner Farmer and Gerald Foster in there as guys who also buy in, but right now, those might be the only 5 that I can honestly say are 100% for sure guaranteed bought in. And I mean, that's not good for a team. That's not what you want to hear. I mean, right?
Yeah, that's 17 other players that are starting on both sides of the ball that aren't. Yeah, it's frustrating to say the least. And it wasn't even little things, as Scott Frost was said. At some point, it just became big things, routine things that you're supposed to do. We weren't doing.
Right after the game, he said, we're going to find out after today who loves football and who loves each other. And I mean, that's going to be so true. And another thing that he also said was that he said that Thursday's practice, Thursday before game day, he said was one of the worst practices of the year. It was actually terrible, but he didn't want to say that leading into the game. He wanted to instill confidence in the guys. But after the game, he said Thursday was really rough. And, that didn't make him feel good about the game, obviously, I'm sure. And it's interesting that he said that in the post game.
Interesting. He said, guys we're just showing up, not ready to practice. And that's just super concerning things, but also things that really have been indicative of what Nebraska football has been. I think of the Ohio State game with Mike Riley when we're ranked 7th in the country. We just lost in overtime to Wisconsin. Our team is down. So we're driving the football. It's our first throw, it's a pick 6 interception, and we just gave up.
We have turnovers right at the beginning of these games, and then instantaneously we're done.
It doesn't matter whether it's Janovich or it's Luke Gifford. We see these guys, a few guys that are carrying, Nate Gary, that want to play football.
Yeah, they're passionate and they want to play. Yeah.
Amir Abdullah, who will put the teams on their back, and they do win games for us. And those 3 or 4 players will win games, and the other 7 just ride the waves of the motions of whatever's happening in the football game. And it's so frustrating, and it hasn't changed. And it's these few guys that you just feel for every single year that, they're giving it 110%. They're giving it their all. And then there's 17 other guys on the field saying, meh, They come into practice wishy-washy, and that shows on the field because it's beyond aggravating.
I mean, imagine how frustrating it is for us, and imagine how frustrated Scott Frost must be, because he believes in the system, he believes in his coaching staff. They turned around UCF. He knows what is possible for Nebraska, and he knows what it takes to be successful and beat a team like Auburn and come out fiery and ready to play. And for Nebraska not to do that must be insanely frustrating for him. And it's pretty impressive that he can maintain his composure like he has with how frustrating these games must be for him. One of the most interesting articles I saw this week was that the World Herald put out an article when Frost 2 years ago and UCF played against Michigan. And after that game, Frost said that UCF out-hit Michigan, that UCF was more physical than Michigan, was ready to play, deserved to win. That type of language. Michigan players obviously remember that. Guys who were on the team back then remembered that, and they came to play against Scott Frost. And that is not what you can say about Nebraska football. We didn't come to play. We didn't come fired and ready to play, and it really showed. It really did. Karan Higdon was an athlete, man. He's huge. He ran with passion, ran with power, ran with speed, and he tore up Nebraska that whole first half. Absolutely destroyed us. No one on that defense could take him down. And not to mention that he was running through massive holes that were opened by their offensive line against our front seven. But, I mean, Mo Berry seemed like the only guy out there that was truly hustling along with Luke Gifford. And I love Mo Berry. I think he has all the talk of what we want in Husker football players. He calls out guys who aren't hustling. He's passionate. He cares every play. And, I mean, I'm excited to see what he can do this year and what he can do next year. And hopefully he can be one of those centerpiece guys that we can turn around this program with. And I'm still maintaining hope for this season and for next season, especially with some of the core pieces that Frost has brought in so far. I still do have hope for Nebraska football this week, upcoming weeks, and the future.
I have faith. I still believe that Scott Frost's scheme and what he is as a coach, like I said, as I've said, he's the guy. I think he is. And he has that passion. The problem is, it's not just the coaches. You have to want to play football, and you have to want to excel. And, UCF was a team that went, they went 0-12, and they're like, I want to change our situation. We are not comfortable with where we're at losing. And they were all bought in to wanting to change how this football was going. And you're only as strong as your weakest link. And it's so true, especially in football. You have the front four do their job, but then the linebacker misses the hole. The secondary's in the wrong spot. A good job by someone can be so overshadowed by someone not doing their job somewhere else. Man, there has to be a culture change, a full 180 on what Nebraska football is. And Michigan just outplayed us in every facet. Scott Frost just used the word whipped. They just whipped us. That's not good. And he wanted to say, that's just not good.
We talked way too long we just talked a lot about Nebraska as a whole. Didn't talk as much about Michigan specifically, but we just want to move on to Purdue. Obviously, there's so much to talk about with Michigan and Nebraska football in general. But this Purdue game it's big for Nebraska. We're trying to end a 7-game losing streak, which when's the last time that's happened in Nebraska football history? We're trying to lose 6 straight. We're trying to break the streak of 6 straight home losses. When's that ever happened in Nebraska football history? Who knows? It's been a long, long time for either of those stats. And, I mean, last year Nebraska beat Purdue 25-24. Tannor Lee threw for 431 yards in that game, which was one of Tannor Lee's better performances as a Husker. Purdue this year's looked pretty good. They have a handful of playmakers on both sides of the ball. Their offenses look pretty good. And they're going to come into the game wanting to win this game, because this is right now one of their better seasons these last few years. So, I don't know, Caleb, what do you think? What do you think about Purdue heading forward in Nebraska's situation?
They have one of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten, and Rondell Moore. And, that's, he's caught 33. He has 33 catches for 372 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's nothing to scoff at. Our special teams has been nowhere near where they have been. Obviously we had a muff punt last game, and we gave up a touchdown. We've gave up a touchdown now twice out of the 3 games. That's not good on punt returns. So that's a big question. Special teams is a big part of it, and I'm not confident in our special teams. I think their offense is going to be able to move the ball and put up some points. And the thing that I was most confident in going this year is our offense being good. We're averaging 19 points a game, which is pretty abysmal. It's pretty bad.
Definitely an outlier in Michigan's game, but
true. But still, we're not even. We haven't scored 30 points yet. I'm worried for a lot of those reasons. You know, they have a pretty decent offense. They're gonna throw the ball a lot. They're gonna really challenge our secondary. You know, is our front seven gonna come up to play like it has been?
I mean, they're favored in this game.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's
yeah.
how
By
it shows.
4. Yeah. With their ESPNs, they're by their FPI, they have a 64% chance of beating us. So that's not good. You know, and the other thing is, you know, I was expecting our defensive line to get a lot of push against Michigan. I thought, you know, Scott Frost came and said we were going to get better week to week, and our team's gotten worse. Our best game has been the first game in Colorado, and then Troy I have some slack for again because of Bunch, but still our defense was put in bad positions. They looked okay, and then they just looked awful against Michigan. I get it's tougher, but we have not gotten better as a team. At the least, stayed the same. But to me, it
and a handful of guys on this
worse.
Purdue team have played against Nebraska for a handful of years, specifically their
Yeah.
quarterback. This is his third game against Nebraska, so
Wow.
he's comfortable playing against us. So we gotta look out for him. He's more of a game manager than a big play guy, but he's going to be able to run a pretty efficient offense against us, I think, and they're probably gonna be able to move the ball. So our offense is gonna have to be able to put up points. I'll be honest, it's not easy talking about Nebraska in a bright light in a game coming up this week, but there's so many musts for Nebraska this week. It's a huge game for us as a program, because if we don't win this one, we're probably not beating Wisconsin in the following week. Do you like your chances against Northwestern after Wisconsin if you're 0-5 already? Not really. So this is a huge game for Nebraska. I kind of want to call it a must-win for Nebraska, and man,
I'd agree. Yeah.
At this point, I hope we can do it. It's not the best analysis, but there's so many inconsistencies with this team right now, specifically on offense. It's hard to say what we're going to see from Nebraska at this point. We're going to see our same offense, but we need to see the Martinez of week 1, not the Martinez of Michigan. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He's a little bit more comfortable with more time to throw, which he should have this game. He should be more comfortable in the pocket, and we should have a little bit more of a running game than we did against Michigan. But there's a lot of ifs heading into this week, and I think we can win this game with my prediction. I predict Nebraska's going to win a real close one, 27-24, but it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty, and I'm not going to be very confident heading into Wisconsin, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. You know, my big thing for me, I think my X factor is if we win this game, you know, Stanley Morgan and JD Spielman are going to get more than 3.5 receptions for a game. You know, they can't average only 3 or 4 catches in a game. You know, these are probably our biggest 2 offensive weapons, and they're not getting the opportunity to score big points. You know,
we're not throwing the ball much.
Yeah.
Like, they're getting a decent percentage of our throws. Like, their target share is where you'd want it to be, but their actual numbers are not there.
They have to at least be getting like at least 10 targets a game.
It's surprising Frost hasn't been utilizing them in the same way. I love Frost, and I do believe in the system, but it's one of the biggest question marks offensively so far is we need to get the ball in Spielman and Morgan's hands multiple times each half.
Yeah, you know, Stanley only has 200 yards on 13 catches and a touchdown. You know, so through 3 games. No, you know, you got to be feeding your playmakers. That's how you win games. You know, Scott said it multiple times. You know, we're trying to put, you know, our team in the best chance of winning, and I think that's definitely giving both of our explosive playmaking guys the ball more. And you know, it's just tough.
Yeah. So with that said, what's your prediction for the game?
You know, gosh, I think we lose this game, which really sucks.
The mighty have fallen.
Yeah,
Caleb.
You know,
I don't underestimate Purdue. I think they're a good team, but I think with the sense that Nebraska this is a must-win. It's going to decide how this season goes. If we lose this game, we might not win 3 games. If we win this game, we
have a chance for a bowl.
The outside chance at a bowl.
Maybe this team gets better, even if we lose this game, that we can make some plays against some teams down the line, that Martinez continues to get better. And as he gets more, you know, he's going to get, this is, you know, his only second week getting more reps. So, you know, maybe that's the hope, is that Martinez gets reps. He's confident. He's 100% healthy.
Yeah.
We get to open up the playbook, a little bit more. He gets to throw the ball more, and if that happens, I think we have a pretty decent chance of winning. But like I said, it's when you lose the turnover battle so bad as we have these past few weeks, it's the mistake that you just can't make and win games.
We gotta take some shots. We have to.
Yeah.
The fact that we're not throwing the ball downfield multiple times a game to Stanley Morgan or J.D. Spielman is ridiculous. It's ridiculous,
and it's not keeping us honest.
I'm sorry, but many of you aren't letting it are just saying trust Scott Frost like you don't know better. But give us a reason why we shouldn't be taking shots downfield to Stanley Morgan and J.D. Spielman. It makes no sense.
We have to do more, and I think obviously part of that is Martinez wasn't healthy. Yep. I've been left with more questions than answers going through each of these games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it feels like you watched Star Wars Episode 7. And you're like, oh man, there's so many questions. What's gonna happen? And then we go into
and then
we go
you get
into
to
Troy
episode 8, and it's just
Michigan,
disappointment.
And then they just give a big old middle finger to all the questions, and then we don't get any answers. That's what it feels like after Troy and Michigan. Just no answers whatsoever. Left just wondering
what the hell is happening?
What's happening?
Yeah.
So
it's
not good.
I don't know. And like I said, I am a little worried. Scott Frost invited a lot of danger in by saying this is the rock bottom.
Yeah. Because if we lose this game and then we lose to Wisconsin, and we could quickly be 0-5, 0-6, 0-7. It's not out of the book. So this was kind of a depressing, critical, not so positive video. That's not usually what we're like around here, but I think there's a lot of criticism to get out there about Nebraska and some things that needed to be talked about. And hopefully you took some positives away. There's still hope for the future.
We have some players. We have some talent. We
have a core group of guys that are going to be really good next year as well. And I think there's a lot of hope for the next year.
And I really
get out some of the seniors who don't buy in. And I still wholeheartedly believe in Scott Frost's culture that he's instilling in Nebraska, but the players just aren't there at this point.
Yeah, it's tough when this is the first time you've gone 0-3. And so obviously you have to ask questions. But yes, I agree. Scott Frost is still the coach. I still think we're headed in the right direction, but it's just a lot more painful process.
We will be headed in the right direction.
As always, guys, if you like this video, make sure to like it. If you really liked it, share it. We really want to hear what you have to say. What is going to happen for this season? We have so many questions. We'd love to hear your questions and love to talk about them at least. Try to hash this out with you guys. What do you think's going to happen for the rest of the season? Who has really impressed you this year? Who has been a stellar player that you've really liked and have stood out to you? And as always, like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. I'm Caleb. That's Josh. This has been Backseat Sports, and we'll see you next video.
See ya. Taking enough shots downfield to open up the defense, and they were stacking the box against Bunch and our running game, and it really just didn't give us many options, and Frost decided to stick with it. It was definitely an issue.
And that's what I was really confused.